Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Daniel Baldwin Show. It is Monday, January 13th, 2025. And I hope you all had a great weekend. I had a pretty interesting weekend. Lots of stuff going on in the Baldwin household. But I wanna jump on our last show, which we talked about the fires in LA. And because it's still ongoing, I thought maybe we could look at a couple other things that are going on now, new developments in as far as the fire is concerned. And what a lot of people are saying is the aftermath, of this terrible, devastating occurrence. But it's not the aftermath. The fire's still going on. It's like 11% controlled right now, and it's going into new areas. What's not happening is that it's not burning in Malibu, and it's not burning down celebrities' homes in the Palisades of politicians and CEOs and people of great net worth. Not that the San Fernando Valley and other parts of Los Angeles don't have a lot of very wealthy people, but you can see the attention that it got, and that now it has dropped off as you look at all of these renowned businesses and high money real estate pockets being burnt out. First of all, again, let's acknowledge the fact that I think the death toll is up to 24 or 26 right now. There's varying reports on that. So for the families of all of those people, and for just the whole area, what an awful, awful thing. And we pray for you, and our hearts and our minds and our prayers are with you, certainly. So I want to read this to you. Why? What started this fire, and what's going on? And I just downloaded this document too, because I want to tie into an earlier broadcast that I did. Climate change and wooden homes are making the situation worse. No rainy season at all so far. Experts say even the most prepared fire agencies in the world can't do much when infernos like this week's ignite. Granted, I mean, the brave men and women in California that are fighting these fires, the brave men and women, it seems, every year that go out into the forest when these massive burnings happen, they're so undermanned and underpowered for them to try to contain things that are this out of control. So, my hat's off to them, and we love you and we thank you for all that you do there. And that's all the first responders, the firefighters, particularly when we're in a fire, but, there's a lot of EMS and police and coordination and stuff that has to take place when something like this is going on, because there's so much peril involved with it. It's so multi-pronged, including the politicians, which we'll get into that later, but they're not faring so well. Newsom and Bass, they just don't look very good. But anyway, we'll talk about that in a minute. So I wanted to get into what caused this fire, and so they talk about the conditions. There's dry weather, and there's lack of rain, and there's, there can be lightning, careless people with cigarettes and campfires, and along with, of course, the main fueling the fire. You can run an engine as long as you want to until the fuel runs out. And so when the fire burns, like the engine in your car, when the wind blows, that's bad news. And the Santa Ana winds, I lived in California, right in this area, right? I bet you the house I lived in, and that a couple of the homes that I lived in are burnt to the ground now. They're right in the heart of this, particularly in the Palisades where I lived when I had my son Atticus when he was very young. Fire investigators are considering an array of possible ignition sources for the huge fires that have killed at least 16 people and destroyed thousands of homes and businesses in the Los Angeles area. A hilly upscale Palisades home to Hollywood stars like Jamie Lee Curtis and Billy Crystal, who lost their houses in the fire. Officials have placed the origin of the wind-whipped blaze behind a home on Piedra Morada Drive, which sits above the densely wooded arroyo. So they have it that they can look at the yard at someone's house. Now, I Googled this. It's in my last, I even gave the address. It's in my last broadcast. In the last podcast, I talked about the supposed house where the rumors are all over the place. They were barbecuing on I guess the wind blew up. I'm guessing, I'm speculating here, please, so don't please come back to me and tell me how I'm banned from your channel now because I spread terrible rumors. The claims that I've read online, so I don't know these to be facts, are, and now they're quoting this again, this home in the street without giving the address, was that there was a barbecue going on in one of them. So I'm going to guess that you left the lid open and something blew out, ember, and caught something, and that sprung this fire. Some careless, probably, or unexpected barbecue situation. Then I got electrical. There was some electrical condition that occurred on the property. We certainly have ruled out lightning strike because there was no lightning in the area, so that's not the start of any of these fires, which often is when you combine that dryness, lack of water, the right amount of wind. You're making a cocktail here. It's a recipe for disaster. And then you get a lightning strike and boom, you're off to the races. That didn't happen here, which is very common and what causes, as I said, the big forest ones. There is all the way to a satanic ritual that was going on that somehow caused this fire. I guess with everything that's in the press now about celebrities in the singing business and actors with tunnels whose homes are connected up there and all kinds of crazy accusations and rumors going around. I don't know. I don't live there. I know a bunch of these people. I know people whose names were read on this list. Personally know them. Excuse me. I don't know what's going on up in the Palisades. I moved out of there a long time ago. I didn't want to raise my kids out there. Didn't want to live in that town anymore. My opinion and my lifestyle and my personal relationship with Jesus Christ, it was not conducive to living in Los Angeles. Now, am I trying to tell you that all the people of Los Angeles are bad people? No, I'm not saying that. I have family there. I have a lot of friends there that I love. But I am telling you that I didn't want to raise my kids out there. Didn't want to do it. It's quite an interesting place. So the claim from officials is that the dry conditions, and they're not 100% sure, evidently, what exactly caused the fire, but they've pinpointed it. Now, you got to ask yourself the question, how can you pinpoint the yard or the address or the street where the fire started? Does that mean that other witnesses, before they evacuated, say, hey, we saw smoke coming out from Freddie's backyard, or, oh, Monica got in her car and said, watch out, fire, and she was driving down the road as she left? Or is there satellite pictures? Because a satellite picture would tell us exactly where the fire started, especially a very small pocket. I believe that there's sophisticated satellite equipment used by NASA and used by security services for this country that supposedly can tell the difference between a Marlboro cigarette box and a Winston box. They look very similar. They're red and white, lying next to each other in a city street. That's how accurate the photography is. So you would have to say to yourself, do I not know where the fire started? Could I not find out where the fire started? And if so, and you believe that, then why aren't we pinpointing exactly where the fire started? Why would we not be able to say, oh yeah, we can see in the strip photography that's done over the city by our satellites, here's where the fire started. If they're saying now already, officials, that it happened on Piedro L'Armata, whatever the name of the street is in the Palisades, then they can see it. So they would also be able to see, and they've shot this rumor down because it's now being called a rumor, that there's NASA photography that shows that the fire started in Altadena and in the Palisades and in another location simultaneously, that within minutes, all three of these. Now this has been debunked, supposedly. This did not happen. The episode that you're looking at right now, I'm calling Fractures Before the Break. And I'm going to tie this up at the end, but these are more of the micro fractures these are more of the things that I'm going to try to bring out in this podcast that are so frustrating to me. That we as a people would look at this and just try to apply logic to it. See, even the fact that I have to keep saying these disclaimers so I can stay on the air and I don't get sued and I don't get, when I say, well, people are saying, but no, it's debunked, it's not proven. There's not real true freedom of speech anymore in this country. There's not. It's governed and it's watched and it's sanctioned and it's muffled and it's controlled by a group of people that have an agenda, in my opinion. So let me move on to this very interesting piece that is from the Los Angeles fire officials. LA fire officials warn of a second round of wildfire danger with strong winds forecasted. Firefighters are bracing for more Santa Ana winds as they continue to battle multiple fires in Los Angeles that have left several people dead and burned thousands of structures. The gusty winds that help propel the fires are forecast to continue through Tuesday and likely Wednesday across Los Angeles and Ventura counties, with low humidity creating critical fire conditions. So they're already telling us this isn't going to stop right now. It is not going to stop. Get ready, it's going to get worse. So there's, in Malibu and in the Pacific Palisades, and as we branch over into more of Los Angeles, which out here, by the water is Malibu and the Palisades are here. And now we're going to get into Santa Monica if it goes that way. And I guess, again, what they're trying to tell us is it depends on which way the wind blows now. And we're over the hill into the valley, and that's burning. The Hollywood sign up by that, in Hollywood, that's on fire. It sounds like this could get really, really bad for a while before it gets better, because my memory of being out in these winds is they blow for a month. It's a long time because there's a buildup to it. Then there's the crescendo of it, blowing for a couple of weeks at least, and then it slowly dissipates. So, even the dissipation of it goes from 70 miles an hour to 60 to 50 to 40 to 30. And you'll have a couple of days of each speed before it goes away. And when these fires are burning like this, 40 mile an hour winds will destroy you. 70 mile an hour winds will ravage an entire neighborhood. So let's look at the perfect storm, no pun intended, if you will. So we are to believe, this is what I'm talking about, the fractures before the break. The many fractures of what we're being fed and being told to believe, or being told is debunked, or being told is coincidence, or being told is not true. So we are to believe that the insurance companies dropped their coverage just a month or two or three, whatever the number is. They dropped thousands of people, notable, reputable insurance companies. California top insurer canceled hundreds of policies months ahead of Los Angeles wildfire. State Farm canceled hundreds of homeowners' policies last summer in the Pacific Palisades area, now affected by the severe wildfires. Many insurers defended the move due to rising wildfire risks and regulations limiting premium increases. So, according to that document, we're to believe that the insurance companies assessed a high or critical risk factor for wildfires. Hey, that water looks like it's coming up pretty high, and we think that based on weather reports and storm reports, these houses are susceptible to be in danger because it could flood them. So we're in the Carolinas now, or wherever that report comes out. What would you do? So go to all the footage of when the hurricane's coming and people are sandbagging their windows and taping things up and preparing for what could be horrific weather conditions. And then they get in their car once they fortify their home or their business and they leave, because you mitigate the risk of personal injury or your family or your animals, whatever it is. So we've seen those preparatory videos and newscasts and, and all over the internet every time one of these big storms is coming down in Florida or wherever it's coming. Months. We're not talking about when the hurricane comes, they go, oh, there's a big tropical storm. Sometimes it's days, just a couple, 3-4 days before it whips up enough and they go, okay, the path of this looks obvious that it's going to hit, Fort Lauderdale. It's gonna, hit land at, somewhere in South Carolina. It's gonna, whatever. So you get what I'm saying. They can project with Doppler and meteorologists and science. They can project a lot of this, and they're not too far off, a mile or two up the coast, but they're pretty accurate. Correct? You know what I'm saying is true. Months before these fires hit, professionals that run their businesses based on these scientific projections said, hey man, this is a high risk area right now. We will get crushed if we have to, and a storm happens, a bad firestorm happens. We're going to lose our business if we had to pay out, or it's going to be too much of an expense for us. So we're going to drop your coverage in California because we think that it's a really high risk. Knowing that that's happened, knowing how many people who own those homes and have seen the fires. I lived out there. I'm not talking about stuff that I don't know anything about. I lived out there. So I know what it was like to go through the fire up in Montecito. I know what it was like to go through fires in Malibu. I had to evacuate multiple times living in California. Multiple times with the flooding that happened too. I saw all that. Once all the stuff burns off and the rains come, there's no more root system anymore to hold this mud, this land back. So the water washes everything down. And it was awful what happened in Montecito and Santa Barbara. Awful. And we'll probably be looking at some of that too. But my point is, what if the insurance companies are dumping you? They're saying, no, we're not going to cover you anymore. There's too much of a risk. What would the response of the California government be? Why would you not look at that and say, we should probably take action to prevent or be prepared for this awful storm, this firestorm coming, like they do in Florida when they're getting ready for, they're ready for the hurricanes in Florida. They're used to it. It's like being in Syracuse and Buffalo, New York, getting ready for the snow. The trucks are lined up, they're gassed up, the plows are ready to go, and they're ready to get to work because 3 feet of snow overnight is coming up there. I lived up there too. So again, what's missing in this equation for me is why didn't Governor Newsom, and why didn't Bass get ready for what the insurance companies were projecting was high risk? And I'll tell you what I mean by that when I say that there's something wrong here. So we're to believe that the insurance companies dropped the coverage and that there were big budget cuts in Los Angeles for firefighting. So just the opposite of what I would think you would do. Like, hey, guess what? These professionals are projecting that this is a really high risk area. We should probably do something to gear up, fill up all the reservoirs, go back to the Resnicks who are flower and pistachio nut farmers and own some ungodly amount of the water and say, yeah, we're going to declare a state of emergency. We're going to take some of that water back from you and the rights to the water. Your pistachios can wait. The number of flowers you sell can be a little less this year. And God knows they're not using all the water. They're just hoarding it. According to the reports I've read, they just own it. So why would we not have taken that kind of emergency action, knowing that the professionals that make a living doing this have projected that this is a super high risk area and we're going to drop the coverage of the people and leave them unguarded and unsecure. Okay. Now comes to the surface Governor Newsom and a whole bunch of people that are politically savvy and investors about the new smart city plans and Agenda 2030. So again, I'm trying to build a fact wall for you to read and you to look at and you to say, all of this is coincidence. So is there satellite photographs or satellite video that show these fires starting on or about, the same hour or whatever it is? Coincidentally, of course. Coincidentally, these fires started almost at the same time, supposedly. And supposedly, there's video that will substantiate that. I don't know. I saw a post on a friend of mine's site that I did further research, and they said that that's not real. But I know one thing, they have the video to show that. They have the ability to tell us whether these two fires started. Once they got to be of any size, satellites would have picked them up for sure. Now, do they have the ability to see the person in their backyard lighting a match or whatever, if that's how it happened? I'm not sure, but it sounds like they could even do that. It sounds like they could dial this in to this address on Piedra Lomata or Morata or whatever it's called in the Palisades and see exactly what was going on in that backyard. They have that ability now. They can watch and look and see everything if they want to, and they do. So why is this a mystery? Why is this called into question? Why can't we have access to see that footage and see exactly what happened and where this started and hold somebody accountable for either being completely reckless or intentionally doing this? So when you look at the smart city plan and how they want to, supposedly take current structures and current stuff and convert it and turn it into what's called a smart city. Well, if the area is completely burnt down to the ground, you don't have to take existing structures, and you don't have to work with something that is not really what you want to work with anyway. If it's burnt to the ground, you bulldoze it all the way and you rebuild and start and become the world's largest smart city, which right now Los Angeles is in a position to be the first new smart city of the United States for sure, based on this real estate that's now suddenly available, just available now. So I don't know how many people plan on rebuilding. Certainly if they don't have or they're not going to be given insurance, and I understand that President Biden just miraculously stepped in as one of the last things that he's done and said, hey, we'll help you. We're going to give federal dollars for you. So our friends that own these giant conglomerate insurance companies aren't going to get hurt. They don't have to pay out. Taxpayers around the entire country are going to now take federal funds to rebuild. Big celebrities are worth tens, 20s, 30, 50, $100 million to rebuild their $5 million home. They're going to be covered. We're going to take care of all of it. All your possessions inside, everything you lost, all your Gucci wallets and your Prada bags and everything else, and your shoes and everything. You're going to have to come up with some kind of estimate on the value of all that. And we're going to help you. We're going to take hardworking people in the state of Georgia's money. We're going to take small business owners who are really trying hard to keep their head above water. And we're going to take their money, their tax money, and we're going to build your mansion. We're going to rebuild your mansion. Or you could take the real estate value of the home that you had. You can take a check for that home, and you could sell that land or join in and participate in the building of a smart city. So how much is that lot, 2 acres up in the Palisades, worth now if it has 10 homes on it? And you can just take the insurance money you got from the hardworking guy in Georgia and buy a house somewhere else. I don't know. I don't know if that's a coincidence. I don't know if that was someone's plan. It makes me, and why I say the title of the show, The Fractures Before the Break. These are all those things that how sick is it? How sick is it that I sit here in my basement at 3 o'clock in the morning wondering what kind of stuff can I bring to the audience today? What can we talk about? Let's talk about, the NFL and let's talk about the big game coming up between Ohio State and Notre Dame, or let's talk about, how we're teaching our kids to read better than we ever have before. Let's talk about the high test scores for inner city schools because we're funding it and leveling the playing ground or whatever. Let's talk about something positive. But in the news right now are this terrible, terrible fires and what's going on and all the stuff that keeps coming up as it unfolds. What frightens me is what we accept, what we look at, even when it is fact-based, even when we know that physics is being defied. Like, they opened the window and they dropped, and they opened the window and they dropped, and they opened the window and they dropped the object out the window from the 10th floor, and they stopped and started rising. We don't know why, but there was no unknown forces involved in that. We saw the disc-shaped object come out of the water. F-16s followed it. It went at supersonic speed and outran us and then stopped and waited for us to catch up. And then a beam came out of it and stuff started burning on the ground. Again, these are these outlandish things that sometimes there's like military footage of weird stuff that they can't explain. They cannot explain. They cannot explain out in Maui these electrical beams that appeared, there's video of it. It's not AI doctored stuff, supposedly. It's been verified that there's these weird, what looks to be strikes of some type that came out. There's the stories about blue houses that didn't get hit. People were painting the roofs of their houses blue. Why would you paint the roof of your house blue and your car blue? Well, the blue ones didn't get hit, and they have all this video. And some of it's been debunked, some of it has not been debunked. Like they have live, phones are amazing things now. You can turn them on. Everyone has one. It's guaranteed, excuse me, to leak out. So what I want to talk about more is how much are we expected to believe? How much are we expected to take? How many fractures can we withstand before something breaks? Because I think we're getting up to the point, with Trump about to take office, and the many different differences between the Biden administration and things that time over time you're going to find out, because documents will be released and people will talk once they're no longer as afraid of him being in office, of stuff that's going on that you're just not going to believe. But even when it can be proven, videotape evidence that looks very suspicious or calls into question, when the Albert Einsteins of our time look up and they say, do you see those two towers? They could not have fallen that way. They could not physically have fallen that way. Now, they have told us this. This information is accessible to you on the internet. You can go and look at this. So, indulge me for a second while I read this to you. What was the purpose of forming the United States? Among them was the idea that all people are created equal, whether European, Native American, or African American, and that these people have fundamental rights such as liberty, free speech, freedom of religion, due process of law, and freedom of assembly. America's revolutionaries openly discussed these concepts. So these were the reasons the founding fathers and the people who are responsible for forming this great nation put us all together and started this whole process. Among them, the idea that all people are created equal. All people. Have Native Americans been equal to whites? Have Native Americans from the start of when we got here to now been treated equally to whites? Have African Americans been treated equal to whites in this country? Well, of course, the answer to that is no. No, that's not true. And although we have sold ourselves on the bill that we are free to speak and that we're free to have religion, there's been incredible religious persecution in this country, and wars have been fought due to terrible atrocities done to different religions, especially if you look at what Hitler and happened to the Jews in World War II. Again, you can see my point that I'm making. So here's the reason we claimed we formed the country. And then here's what's really going on. Are we free to speak our mind? Are we really free to write or say what we want to do? Because I have to keep saying these disclaimers. Because if I don't, those people that govern the sites that I'm speaking on, that I put this podcast on, will take me down, will fact check me. So if one person claims or shows a video and AI has doctored it, but it airs on Fox News or it airs on CNN or it's put on the site for YouTube that CNN owns, why am I going to get banned? Why am I going to get dinged? Because I'm taking something they've already put on, because I'm not CNN and I'm not Fox, and I'm probably using it in a context that's not agreeable to them. But let me tell you something. I challenge you, if you want to know what I mean by the fractures before the break, which is the title of this episode of my podcast. There are some deep fractures now that are weakening the structure. And the analogy is perfect. Go back and Google collapse of the Twin Towers, just a video of the collapses. Listen to what every demolition expert has ever said about what they see, about what would physics-wise. Here's 4 columns in each corner of the building. There it is. See it? Now, in between the columns are hundreds of other columns of steel. Hundreds of other columns. Jet fuel, when it hits that building, could never get hot enough. Ever get hot enough to create a structural breakdown and cause the collapse of that building. Never, ever, physics-wise, been proven. The building was built, both of them, to endure the strike of a jumbo jet. With that in mind. So the little corner of the building gets hit and the whole thing falls perfectly down. Now go to the video of the collapse and look 5, 10, 15 floors below as it's perfectly collapsing and falling into his imprint. The whole thing drops like this. And look at the little, these little powder like blows, like someone taking the drag of a cigarette and going out of the side of the building. They're all over the building, and they continue to happen below the collapse line. So if it's collapsing on floor 90 at 85, 80, 81, 79, you see the poo, 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 poo. The entire video, zoom in on it and watch it. Is it me? Is it me? Do I know this to be a fact? Was I in the elevator shafts putting bombs there and setting this thing up to collapse? No, I wasn't. Do I know anybody that was in the bomb shaft that has claimed me? No, I don't. Have I looked at the video very carefully to see what appears to be explosions that happen when you're dropping a building? Have I listened to the physicists tell me that it is impossible, not virtually, not maybe, not possibly, not, it is absolutely impossible for those buildings to have fallen the way they fell, and Building 7. Impossible. So knowing that the greatest minds in physics and architecture and demolition, all of them now coming together going, yeah, no, that looks like somebody dropped that building. But here's my point. It's not even about that anymore. It's not even about you're riding in a car. Have you ever shot anything? Have you ever shot an animal, gone deer hunting or whatever you shot at? Have you ever sadly, if you're a cop or you had to defend yourself, or you were you've served this great country, and thank you so much if you have, as a United States military man or woman in any one of the branches. Have you ever seen someone get shot? The hole goes in you the size of the bullet. So if it's a 50 caliber, it's a half an inch, and a hole a half an inch across, a little hole this big, goes in your skin. Out the back is a hole like this. It looks like the Holland Tunnel. I mean, it can gather all the stuff in and blow it out your back. If it's a high caliber bullet like that, and it mushrooms, it crushes a little bit, gathers everything in its path and just smashes it out your back. So the entry wound here, when it got a headshot to a high-speed, high-power rifle, it goes in your head, and then at the back, it just blows the back of your head out, or it just crushes everything. JFK. So you want to tell me that Lee Harvey Oswald was in the fifth story book depository, fifth story window, and shot? Forget about whether he was able to hit him, moving target, the type of Italian rifle, blah, 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 blah. Just his skull fragments, which went all the way over the back of the car. Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, famous footage of her, the Zapruder film, diving over the back of the car, collecting pieces of her husband's skull, that back and to the left, back and to the left. The force of that bullet hitting his head. If you've ever shot anything, you know that shot did not come from behind. That headshot did not come from behind. That didn't happen. That did not happen. And yet, the fractures that we as people turn our heads away from now, the fact that we accept this craziness going on, the fact that we feel so helpless to not say or do anything, the fracture before the break, my friends. I don't think there's much more we're going to take. I think as evidence comes out about things like fires, things like elections, as more and more information happens about what happened in 2020, about stuff that's going to occur in this country in the next 6 and 12 months when Trump takes office, the resistance that's going to happen, something's got to break. Something has to break. And I think it probably will. I think that you're going to see, as I've predicted before, and predicted a number of things that I thought were going to happen, and they've all happened. A couple that didn't. I was quite surprised, and I'm actually more concerned that my prediction that Harris might indeed step in, Biden will be taken ill. I thought that might happen. I thought she might step in and become president just to screw and try to get a bunch of things passed. But they didn't need to do that. They let Joe Biden do it. They let Joe Biden do things, like shut down the drilling, he's passed all these laws to try and make it as difficult as possible. That Trump ran on certain premises, and he said he was going to do certain things, that now Biden is going to make it as hard as he can as he closes. There's even rumors now that he's going to give blanket pardons. He's already pardoned, terrifying killers from death row, and he's done some really crazy stuff. Of course, he pardoned his son, which I said before, I'm not an unreasonable man. If I had the power to pardon my son, and my son had done the things that boy did, that Hunter did, I would probably flex my power to save my son. I probably would do that. I mean, it wasn't like he was, physical crimes against women or, some other stuff that he was accused of doing. Not to exonerate him of his felonies, but I think I can understand that as a father. I can understand his wanting to do that and having the power to do it. But he's about to rumor mill pardon Fauci. He's going to pardon Fauci, who on royalties, it's reported and said that he's made tens and tens of millions of dollars. And it appears that the development, although he denied that they had anything to do with the backing or development of this terrible virus in Wuhan, when in fact it looks like he did know, he was involved in it. And if all those reports are true, and the approval of vaccines that were not tested, that I think we haven't begun to see the tip of the iceberg about how that's going to affect Americans, because there hasn't been enough time gone yet. How many? What will the number of people that experience Alzheimer's and terrible after effects of these untested vaccines be? I don't know, but I didn't get any of those shots. And yet we were forced by the government, forced to go back to work, military men and women, a lot of people that were first responders, nurses, and so on. All, if they wanted to work under the Biden administration, they had to get these vaccines. And so what's that look like? What does it look like for the babies of these people? What are their life going to look like? And will they develop things that the people that made the vaccines will have a treatment for? So are they just birthing their future clients and predisposing them to need the treatments that they're going to have, that they may already have ready? I'm not claiming to know that. I'm saying, wow, what an incredible business plan. What an incredible, and you're going to pardon this guy when he's suspected. What's the reaction of the people going to be to that? Will there be enough fractures to create a break that's violent? Will there be enough fractures to create a break that's more Dr. King and we'll have, civil disobedience? Will it be full on, the state of Texas is going to want to secede and run their own show down there because they're not buying it anymore? They're not going to let Joe Biden and the Democrats tell them they can't protect their border. To come down with federal agents and cut the wires that they put up to stop the influx of illegal aliens coming into the state of Texas. So, there's each state has a right to protect itself. It's in the Constitution and in their state constitutions. So when the federal government fails you, these are assurances for the people that reside in that state that the state's got your back. Well, if you interfere with the state having your back, if you interfere with the state being able to even just protect itself because of the security risks involved in what was going on the borders in Texas, and the governor of Texas and the people of Texas are like, hey, at least we don't even want your money. Well, this is not California after the fires burned, where we need your help right now. We'll take care of it, but don't get in our way. Don't order federal marshals and don't order, reserves down here and put us in conflict with our own brothers and sisters. We're going to go protect ourselves. You're going to see civil action. You're going to see, as the facts come out, I believe, the fractures before the break. I hope it's not some catastrophic break where, but these are the types of things in other countries when you look at them, when there's this wide a gap between ideologies. You see civil wars, the people are going to be willing to fight over this stuff now. They are, I believe. So I don't want to be around that. I don't want to be involved in that. And I hope to God we can circumvent this type of action. But the fractures that are leading to this break right now are happening right now. They're happening right now under our feet. And we look at that, we listen to the physics, we listen to the physicists tell us there's no way those little boom puffs that you see coming out are indigenous to somebody who's preset an explosion in that building to collapse it the way how perfectly it collapsed. Both buildings and Building 7. Now, knowing that you're hearing me, an actor, by how you know me, one of the Baldwin brothers telling you this information. And if you hadn't heard it before, or you weren't sure, or you kind of heard the rumors of it, go look, listen, take action. Go look based on what I said, and then put your responses up. Let's start a conversation about these types of things when we're talking about it. And what I want to get to more is we can't do anything about 9/11 now. Listen, according to me, they blew that building down. They did. They knocked that building down. I believe. I look at the evidence, I listen to the testimony, I listen to people that are far more learned than me, and I listen to what they say, and they go, yeah, no way. There's no way that happened. So I go, all right, well, why would they do that? And why are they not, well, they're never going to tell us they did that. So did they do that in some effort to save us something else that they wouldn't have been able to do? Congress wouldn't have approved to protect us in the Middle East, or to get involved in the oil, whatever the theories are. We sit here like sheep. We got our finger in our nose going, ah, and doing nothing about it. Nothing. It is proven physically that those buildings could not have fallen that way. And yet, all those brave firemen and women in New York, my home, are gone. Guys I knew from high school that died, that perished. No answer. No answer. But we know one thing. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't a terrorist act that just hitting those planes. That was a terrorist act. But the buildings falling? No, there's the capability globally to pull off a job like that. There's the capability globally to not just set into motion, but to execute that type of, that big a project. So when I look at that, and I hear all this stuff coming out of California, and some of it sounds outlandish to me. Remember, I grew up in the 60s and 70s. So when I hear this stuff, the bristling about JFK when I was, in junior high school, going, yeah, they're talking about that being an inside job. Wasn't a lot. There was a Warren Commission that quelled any theories, and they really hung Oswald out to dry. And Jack Ruby kills Oswald, and suddenly, Oswald, this terrible guy, he killed Kennedy. And that's kind of how I grew up. And then more and more stuff comes out, and guys like Oliver Stone make JFK, and and you start calling the government into question as you look at Vietnam and you look at different things. But now, here's my problem. We protested, we wrote letters and articles, and we talked about how scared we were about is this possible? Did this happen? Can someone answer these questions for us? We're not even doing that anymore. We're so numb to it now. We're so numb that they can go at a rally. Think about this. Think about this. There's guys up on high points all around your property, all around the stadium. Let's say it's a football stadium, or bigger than a football stadium, an outdoor concert. And there's guys perched at high points with scopes that can count that from 200 yards away, can count the nose hairs on your nose that are sticking out. Do I got any sticking out? I might. I got to probably trim those bad boys back. But they can see them. That's how deadly accurate this scope is. And a kid climbs up the back of a building with a rifle, crawls along for 20 minutes with shooters going, white rooftop, male Caucasian, and they're watching it. And no one sends anybody up there. Some cop at the last minute shows up, kid turns around, guy falls backwards and rips around and starts letting them fly towards Trump. Whistles wanted to clip his ear. 20 minutes. Do you really want me to believe that somebody on the inside didn't allow that to happen? Are you kidding me? The scope can count the nose hairs in your nose. And only until he started to fire did we open fire. And of course, he's gone. So we're never going to hear who he was in communication with. We're never going to listen, people. This is BS. It's total BS. Somebody knew that kid. Somebody put that kid up there, and somebody let him crawl around that roof for a little while before there would have been, if it was my security team, they'd have been on that roof the second someone saw a movement on top of a big white roof. I mean, it wasn't like they couldn't see the kid. They could count his nose hairs. They let him go up there. They let him stay up there. Somebody did. I don't know. I've heard all the different conspiracy theories. That makes no sense to me. So if you're going to pull my videos down, if you're going to pull my podcast down, because I'm telling you, in my knowledge of the Secret Service, in my knowledge of triangulation and how you shoot somebody and what you do, and this boy being a kid with no experience, no training, nothing, and he just flukily no. It's too convenient, and it breaks the physics of what this is all about. This is not oversight. This is not oversight, in my opinion. You don't get somebody up there with a pro. This is a pro with the scope looking, with a spotter. Yeah, there's something wrong with that. There's something wrong with that. But we accept it. We accept it. They look now at us. There's us, the pedestrians, the citizens, and then the machine. And they look at us and they go, yeah, they don't even care. Don't worry about it. Just shoot it, burn it down. Put a whole bunch of metals in that thing and tell them they have to shoot it into their arm or they can't go to work. Now, so you're either going to starve yourself out and not provide for your family, or you're going to take this shot and you're going to go to work. And we know that 40% of you are going to have complications based on this shot. We put stuff in there to give you a reaction to it, a long-term reaction. We allow our children to eat foods that we know, that we absolutely know are bad for them. We allow that. We don't, like every other country around us, all of Europe, Canada, ban foods that have certain things in them for sure that they know are carcinogenic. Not can be, they are carcinogenic. And so, well, of course, we're going to protect our people and not let you have that. Not in this country. There are dyes that are used, we just let them use it. The same companies make those products for other countries, and they remove those dyes and those things because they're banned, and they still want to sell their cereal or their stuff to that other country. Fast food. I'm going to do an entire show, and I'm going to back it up with statistical information and facts and tests and science and medical information to tell you how bad this has gotten. What we know about fast food and certain brands, I'm going to name the brands. And so why in God's name would we do these things? People don't really care enough. You've gotten, and we've gotten so numb to the system, so numb to what we accept, and so we feel so helpless. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. Are we in a position where the fractures are adding up, and we feel we can't do anything about it? Do we feel like we don't have a voice anymore? Do we feel like we just have to accept it and hope that you're one of those people that doesn't get sick, or one of those people that your rights aren't taken, or one of those people we just accept it? We just get herded like sheep into the box, and then they take us to slaughter. And so I look at this, and I go back to the title, The Fractures Before the Break. The fractures are getting worse. They're getting much worse. So I have to say, am I a conspiracy theorist? Yeah, to a certain extent, I am. Because I know the machine is not acting in my benefit. It's not acting in my benefit. And the proof of that is so many of the things that happen that defy science, that defy logic, and that the company allows to happen. And we feel like we have to accept it. We don't have to accept it. We don't. We do have a voice, but it requires us to work in unison to quell these terrible acts against us. So I look at the fire. I look at the information available to me online and in the news, and the things that are claimed to be facts. Again, let's review it really quickly, please, because I think it's worth it. Months ago, the insurance carriers, State Farm and some big insurance carriers, drop the policies of thousands of people that live right in the areas where the fires happen. That's a big red flag to me. Throw the flag like in a football game. Pew. They dropped the, well, why would they do that? Well, they claim that we have decided, and we have evidence that will support that these are very, very high risk areas for wildfires. So let's let all the water down to the lowest levels possible in the reservoirs that protect these homes and allow the firemen and firewomen to go in and fight a potential fire. Let's let the water go. We're not going to keep them at their maximum capacity during this high-risk area that insurance companies that have professionals have advised them, you're going to get slaughtered if a fire goes up there. Let's not do that. Let's not do clearing. By the way, I have a friend, but I just want to throw this in. We proposed to the state of California, and we have a plan. And it was years ago. He's a Jason, my friend in Tennessee. He has a company that does, they go in after the storm. They go in after the hurricane or whatever, and they clean up entire cities, and they're super good at it. And he's just a really great Christian brother of mine. My buddy Johnny introduced us up there in Chattanooga. And I stay in touch with Jason. And I said, you know what we should do? We should do preventative measures with your excavation equipment and your coordination and everything. And we should start clearing out areas that stop the fires from going, because these wildfires, and Jason said, yeah, that's a great idea. We could really do that, Daniel. We could, and I said, I know, Jason. I should. So I brought it to behind closed doors, a couple powers that be in California, and was told, yeah, I don't think they're going to approve that spending. You think they would have approved it now? Do you think they would approve it next year rather than spend and watch this terrible, terrible, terrible devastation happen in California? Because this isn't the end of it. This is not the end of this. This is going to keep happening. The Santa Ana's come every year. These fires happen all the time. How many times have we heard about these fires? It's not going to end. So we're going to put together another plan, Jason and I, and present it to Governor Newsom. God knows he could use a shot in the arm. And I don't really care, whether it's Newsom, Bass, Reagan, whoever it is. I'm hoping to try to save lives and save some money and improve the quality of life on the planet before I leave it. And I hope that's not for a long time. The fractures before the break, my friends. Stay strong, people of California. My heart goes out to you. I look at the footage. It's funny, you relate it to when you see a building or you see a business or a restaurant. The normal thing for you to do is to think about, oh, I remember that, and then you flash to the times you were in that building. There's, steakhouses and little businesses, and the Real Inn. It keeps coming to my mind because I used to love to go there and have this fish sandwich they had there years ago. The little mom and pop places, the surf shops. I mean, like everything's gone, like just about everything along that stretch. And I lived there, so I would frequent those. Thai restaurant, and these little places that are just all burnt. It looks like London after the Blitzkrieg. It's so devastating. And all that's gone forever now. Like all I have left are the memories of the characters that worked there. The hostess that was bigger than life when I go, hi, Mr. Baldwin, and I'd come in and they would greet us and always give us a nice table, and their families and their children, and all that's gone now. All of that is gone. I'm so sorry for all of you, and for my friends in Hollywood, the good ones that I love, and your homes are gone, and I can't imagine. I can't imagine. How would you ever replace all those memories? You could rebuild anything you want structurally, but a home holds a power, an energy that you built that you created in that home, with your children, with your spouse, place that you are most at peace, that your possessions are, that you make love to your wife at, that you birthed your children and raised them, and your pets, and so on, and all the memories and photographs and all that stuff that come hand in hand with your home. And that for many, 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 many people, that's gone. And it's still going on right now. Please don't forget, these fires are still going on right now. They're ripping through other areas. Just not, the super rich Palisades of Malibu anymore, because most of that's gone. But again, I as you know, I'm coming to the end of the show, and I end my show with prayer. So if this is not something that you like to participate in, then I'll see you on Friday. And if it is something that you're open to, then please join me in this prayer. Dear God, we thank you for all of your blessings, Lord, and we thank you for sparing so many hundreds of thousands of lives. And Lord, we pray for those who have entered the gates of heaven, some 24, 26 people now, as a result of these fires. And Lord, we reach out in prayer and in faith to their families and their friends and their colleagues, and we say we're so sorry. They are with God now, though, so know and try to find some solace in the fact that they rest in heaven. But God, we ask you for your mercy for these fires, Lord. Projections are that the fires are going to continue and they might whip up again, and we ask God for you to possibly reach out your hand and to minimize any of the damage and certainly any death or injury to people or animals. God, we ask you this in the faith that we have in you, and how we hold your great name and your great self in the highest regard, Lord. We love you, Jesus, and we ask you for your mercy. Amen. I just want to reiterate, I spend a lot of time gathering, downloading documentation, and writing notes about where I want to go with the show. I don't have some big production studio. I don't have all kinds of stuff going on here. I get some guidance and run some stuff by my really smart wife. She's a lot smarter than me, Deasia. And so I said, what do you think about what I said? I don't know if you want to say that. Or what do you think about, or can I put this footage on the show? See, I can't load up certain stuff that's online because somebody else owns it, or, so I'm looking into whether I can give you links. I'm looking into having other guests or other people on the show, but it's really me down in my little studio, down in my home, coming to you with stuff that bothers me. I hope it gets to a point where I start to report more, and I'm waiting after the inauguration for more positive stuff. This is just kind of thrown in our lap. It's so topical right now, what's going on with this fire. And then I go back to other conspiracy stuff about, 9/11 and JFK. But what I'm trying to get out, though, I hope, and I want you to hope, and I want to work together. I don't care what you believe in. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. I don't care what your religion is. Someone's going to find out whether we're right or wrong. History will unfold all the information, and when we end up leaving this planet, we'll go to heaven. But man, there is hope. The unity of us, no matter how diversified our differences are, the unity that is us will be the hope for us in this country, will be the hope for us as parents, will be the hope for us as a unit, as human beings. One of the greatest things about my relationship with my wife and I is that we are a team. God, us, the kids, and all the other stuff. God, us, just like it says in the Bible. We falter on that sometimes. We're human. More me than her. But overall, We have that down pretty good. We have each other's back all the time. This marriage of us as Americans, this unity of us as Americans, has to really solidify and get strong. We're going to be tested in the months to come, and this next year or two. I believe we're going to be tested. I believe that we'll probably face some other, in the 4 years that Trump is in office, we're going to face some other kind of pandemic type of thing again. I think that's coming. I think that the differences between the right and the left and evidentiary stuff is going to come out, where people of power are going to be proven to have abused and done some pretty sinister stuff. I think that's going to happen. I do. I think that when you look at reports about what's happening and who made money, from rumored things like Bill Gates and and other great Anthony Fauci, and again, I think it's going to get pretty sticky, pretty hot. But we can do this. We can work together and use our differences to fuel us to a commonality. I really believe that. I believe that once the facts start coming out, there's going to be on both sides. People will go, really? Are you kidding me? They did that? That outrage has to be the glue that holds us together, that saves this whole thing. Or we're going to have a long 4 years coming up if we don't figure out some commonality. And I think that our belief in a higher power, for me, it's Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior. I believe that for the sake of our loved ones, particularly our wives or our husbands and our children, and our love for this country, and to save it. The fractures before the break. The break is coming. Like we can avoid how bad the break is, but we can't avoid the break anymore. It's coming for sure. It's going to get worse before it gets better, I think. I don't think you can avoid it's like watching two cars going at each other, and they're going faster and faster and faster. And then finally, when you look, you go, oh my God, there's not enough room on either side at this juncture of the highway for them to avoid hitting each other. They're going to collide. And I think we're looking at some collision now. And we have to, what's the collateral damage of that, and how can we minimize that if we can, which we can. And how will we take that inertia and turn it into something that's potentially positive and helps us grow and learn from. But yeah, I've made some other predictions before, and a bunch of them have come true. Get ready, because I think this is going to be hot. I know I normally don't go for a really long time after I've prayed. I just wanted to tag it with that theory. Again, anything you see on this show, I report to you. I download. Is my opinion when it's an opinion. It's not supposed to be represented as fact. You do with it what you want. I don't want to get kicked off the air again because they say that I gave you misinformation. But you take and look up some of the things I talked about today and see what you find out. And please, on the chat boxes, we're going to launch the website this week. But on social media, you can make comments. I want you to make comments. I want you to say, oh yeah, that's crap. What are you talking about? I want you to say, I can't believe that. I looked it up. You can interact with each other and with me, and you can write things on there that people can look up too. Here's how you're going to debunk it. Here's how you're going to say, because again, I'm not there. I didn't see it, but I'm looking at all the facts involved that I did see and that I've listened to from experts that know way more than me. And I'm saying, well, that doesn't look very likely, or that looks like absolutely that happened. But go, write in your stuff. Look it up. Take action. Take action with me, and let's start this conversation. Let's start healing this, and let's be realistic about where we are and what we're doing. God bless you. I'll see you on Friday.